Hi, I'm Whitney.
And I'm also Whitney. And we're the one ghost sister, apparently.
I just wanted to see what you would do. No, obviously I'm Taylor. So,
No,
yeah.
don't let her lie to you guys. It's really me, and I just managed to change my voice.
Yeah, 100%.
Wouldn't that be weird if it was like this whole podcast is just one person? Like
Oh, that would be crazy. This one person is managing to talk over themselves in two different voices.
I mean, if you can create an entire song as just one person, I'm pretty sure you could like have a whole back and forth.
Manipulate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little weird
Mm,
and a little much, like, weird flex, but you could do it.
you could. Yeah.
I don't suggest it.
I wouldn't. That sounds like a freaking racket.
Yeah. But anyways, no,
So,
I'm Whitney, she's Taylor. Yeah.
yeah. So, I have one weird thing to bring up. And it is she's like, "Okay." Um, that off of the coast of Texas recently, they have been finding witch bottles that have been washing up on shore.
Okay.
Yes,
I was like,
and
"What are we going to be talking about right now?" I don't understand, but
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so this was an article that came out, like, earlier this week that these green bottles that have been sealed with wax have been washing up on Texas beaches, and this one guy said that he has, like, 7, but his wife won't let them open them, and
With good reason. I wouldn't open
I
them.
know.
I wouldn't even take them. I would be like, "Nah, fuck that," and I would leave it in the ocean. Or I would just yeet
Yeah,
it further into the ocean and be like, "Nope, go back to where you came
right,
from."
right. So, these bottles are called the witches' bottles, and they are supposedly old bottles that were used for hexes and, like, trapping demonic energies and that kinda thing, and, police are basically saying don't open them because there's the paranormal side of that, but also these things are filled with old hair, they're filled with paper, they're filled with old herbs, and they're filled with urine.
Yeah.
So they're like, please don't open these.
Yeah.
So
Like, again,
yeah, that's a
yeet it into the ocean.
whenever I saw those, I immediately thought, I bet one of those contains a tuyul.
Oh, yeah, yeah. As soon as I said I would
Hmm.
yeet it back into the ocean, I was like, "Hey, that's what you do with that one thing." Yeah.
Yep, I love that you can never remember what
I
it's called.
no, I can't. It's the weird baby looking thing. I don't think my brain wants to remember that.
That's fair. Yeah, it gets the information and then immediately purges it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Story of my
that's
life.
fair. Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
thing it's gonna be after Thanksgiving for y'all, but well, happy
Yeah.
Black Friday, Saturday. Good luck, everyone, if you are one of those ones that likes to go out at fucking 2 AM. We saw a thing about people waiting in line at 2 AM for a pie. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That is absurd. I understand I can
Yes.
bake and everything, but even if you can't bake, make your shitty ass pie and be like, "Wow, it was amazing how much sleep I got." Like,
Yes.
go to bed. I don't I don't
Yeah, I did the Black Friday thing with a friend once in high school, and I remember getting up at 2:45 and being like, "Why the fuck am I doing this?"
like,
And then
I barely even do that if I have to get paid. Like, they tell me to come in at 3 and I'm like, are you sure? Because I could get a different job." Like, "No, I'm not doing that."
yeah. Mhm.
No.
Yeah, that's so yeah, it's not worth it in my opinion, especially now with the cyber deals and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
like,
Nah, just deliver it to my
yeah,
door.
I've done Black Friday shopping stuff, but it's been all cyber stuff, like, I don't
Yeah.
especially now, like, they're like, "Oh, it's November for October 31st, Black Friday deals," and you're like,
Mhm.
we got 3 weeks, y'all." Like,
Yeah.
"Okay." And if you're Amazon, you think that I have a Black Friday deal for my miniature dollhouse, which I don't have, but I appreciate you thinking I would, Amazon.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whatever.
Mine was like, "Would you like a Black Friday deal on all of this medication?" It's
Ah,
like my vitamins, my vitamin D.
I
Yeah, it was
mean,
like, "Here's a Black Friday deal."
that stuff
So,
adds up.
it does, it really does. Yeah, we are We are separate for Thanksgiving because my dog caught a very contagious thing, and so we've not really had a Thanksgiving-y Thanksgiving, but that's
No.
okay. It's been fun, though. We played Mario Kart earlier.
Yeah, she's getting better, so that's good. And it's not the weird, mysterious respiratory infection that I don't know, the puppy CDC has been looking at. I don't know what group has been looking at that, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, she has what's called mycoplasma. That's a thing, and it's very difficult to get rid of apparently, so
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't be too
but
difficult if she would take her meds
she has been a rock star the past 2 days
because
because I have labeled the cheese that so we've gone through the gambit of things. She's been on medication now for almost 20 days, and she typically gets a slice of cheese. It's Kraft American cheese. Don't at me. She gets it. I don't care what you think about it. She gets a slice of that before bed. And then I have what's called mommy cheese. And it's like, Sargento. It's really expensive cheese. And I say that's really expensive. It's unnecessarily expensive cheese.
so it's like it's not even like artisanal cheese or anything. It's not even you didn't go anywhere fancy. You're like, it's really
It's
expensive.
expensive.
It's like a
It's
step up from, like, Kroger brands, but, like, real,
it
like,
is.
expensive. But, I mean, cheese is expensive, so I'll give you that,
It
but
is expensive. Yeah, it's like I could have gotten the Kroger brand, but I got Sargento. It was the only one that had aged white
I'm
cheddar,
just
but
thinking at
I
work when we
labeled it.
make the charcuterie boards and stuff, if I was like, "This is Sargento cheese," they would be like, "You're giving me back $60, right?" And I'd be like,
Right?
no."
So, I've been labeling it mommy cheese, and Kaya isn't allowed to have mommy cheese, so I've been like, "Would you like mommy cheese?" And she's like, "Fucking yeah, I would." So she's been taking her meds in the morning with that, and then in the evening, the last 2 days, she's been getting a non-seasoned with Flora and a piece of cheese cheeseburger patty, and that has been the shit. So she's
Hell
been
yeah.
eating her meds, and I'm so happy.
Yeah.
So,
Next, you need,
yeah.
like, a hot dog with, like, pumpkin chili.
Oh god, that immediately made me nauseous. Yeah. No, I've got pork chops, I've got chicken, I've got steak, and I've got 2 more hamburger patties. Actually, no, 4 more hamburger patties that if I just absolutely need to, we can.
I say you make them into, like, little meatballs. What was it that I just sent you? Oh, I sent you a thing, and it was like a peanut butter, like, crunch bar kind of thing, but for dogs, and I was like, you could
Yeah.
literally, like if you knew she would eat it, you could just, like, stick the pill in the middle of the bar and then be like, "It's all crunchy, and then, like, move on with your life,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
that wouldn't
Yeah.
work.
It wouldn't, nope.
Mm-mm.
Alright, I'm sure people are like, "Okay, we're done hearing you talk about
They're
this."
like, "Fuck you guys and your Thanksgiving, we wanna hear ghost shit, god,
Exactly. So let's talk about ghost shit.
what are we talking about?"
We're talking about the Ancient Ram Inn today, and
Yay, and
I came
real fast side note, for all of you guys who thought it was gonna be another Whitney episode, sorry, my brain was like, "Can't look at my hand anymore." Taylor got an
Mhm.
opportunity to not do the fun thing that we were gonna do, but this will also be fun, but then we'll go back to hand shit, not in, like, a sexual way, but we'll go back to that at some point, so we'll get there.
Okay, literally no one was thinking that.
Really? Hand shit?
Woo, I wasn't thinking that, okay. Yeah, the special thing that I have planned, we're going to have to wait until Christmas to do or the next time that Whitney and I are together because it's just easier to do it together in person.
And until her dog is better, we can't do that because of
Yeah,
how contagious it is. Everybody
yeah,
send prayers, witch vibes, spells, seances, whatever you want towards Taylor in a good way for
yes.
her dog to get better. Yeah.
Yes, please. She's tired of wearing diapers.
It's still the most adorable thing ever, so I'm not
It
tired of
really
seeing
is.
it, but yeah.
Okay, I came across Ancient Ram Inn. I've actually seen it several times, and I wanted to go back to England because I think England has a lot of fun stuff with it, and I felt like I really wanted to go in depth with something after I couldn't find anything about the Omni Shoreham.
Mhm.
I did a, most haunted areas in England thing, and this was like number 3 on the list. So, this is located in Wotton-Under-Edge in Stroud district in Gloucestershire. England.
You're not gonna keep doing this the whole episode, right?
I'm not. No,
Okay.
no, I'm not. So, this is a ancient building, and it's called the Ancient Ram Inn for a reason because it's over 1,000 years old. It is currently a grade 2 asterisk listed building, and I had to look that up because I don't know what the fuck that means. It is this is how it's described, a particularly important building of more than special interest. That's a classification of
Cryptic.
preservation. I
Very
know.
cryptic.
So
It sounds like it's just, like, a group of people and someone was like, "Hey, you see that building down the street? It's kind of interesting." And they were like, "Put it category 2, everyone. It's interesting." Like, "What?"
exactly. So the haunting doesn't necessarily start with the house itself. And as a matter of fact, I've got something kind of interesting to ponder on about the hauntings of the house itself. But the land and the activity before the ancient Ram Inn was built is actually really important to why they think it was haunted. So, Potter's Pond is what it's built on. This is a wetland that is an area of ley lines. Do you remember ley lines, Whitney?
Mhm.
Okay, so for those of you in the back who don't know what a ley line is, it is a straight line that one can draw through several places of spiritual importance. And this includes prehistoric burial grounds, mystic places, ancient churches, and cathedrals. And this is something that Zach Bagans is just fucking in love with for whatever reason. He is just all about the ley lines. This one sits
So,
on two.
ley lines, what defines what creates the ley line? Like, is this like fairy paths where it's just like, "Oh, there's a fucking fairy path," or is there, like, specific like, Stonehenge is, like, number 1, and then a line going from that to, I don't know, like, Easter Island or something, like, I don't fucking know how it works out, but is that what
You are correct. Basically, if you put lines between areas of high spiritual importance, like Stonehenge is one of them, Stonehenge is actually connected to the ancient Ramin. And then if you
Wow.
keep going down that ley line, there is a cathedral that it connects to. And then there was another one that was like, if you keep going down this one, it connects to the Vatican and stuff. So
I'm just
that's
because to me,
it's
it seems the same as, like, the fairy paths where you're just like, "You just fucking said there was one there, and now there is one." Like, any place could
yes.
be haunted, and then you're gonna be like, "Ah, it's a ley line."
Yeah. So that's why I don't really put a lot of strength in ley lines or a lot of I don't put my eggs in that basket really. It's kind of like, the stone tape theory and
Mhm.
water remembering shit. I just don't really see the mechanics behind it.
Okay.
But every single source that I said made it a big deal that this thing is located on two intersecting ley lines.
Okay.
So, the other big part of this is that it is purported to be built on top of I know my brain was like, "The word." It's purported to be built on top of a 5,000-year-old pagan burial ground.
Okay.
And John Humphreys, he was one of the previous owners, he claimed that it was used for a millennia start or for millennia starting in 3000 BC, and that human sacrifice was part of the ancient rituals that they took place in. Now, Ghost Adventures had a historian, his name was CJ Romer, on there that said scientists from the University of Bristol found skeletons in this area dating back to 1,000 years ago.
Mm.
So that's the only evidence that I have that this pagan burial ground really existed outside of folklore.
Yeah, because you would think if like, there would be much older skeletons.
Yes.
Like fossils, they would be fossils.
Yeah. And you would have this would likely be um an archaeological excavation site and
Mhm.
something that would be cordoned off and
Well,
universities would be coming to study
is it
it.
possible that they just haven't done that yet?
Could be because a lot of it comes down to whether or not the owner will let you get in there, but when we get into who John Humphreys was, it's not going to make sense for why he wouldn't
Do that?
let them do
Okay.
it. Yeah. So I searched all over for evidence. I even asked ChatGPT if it knew anything because it can scour the internet and look for any source of it.
Mhm.
And it said that there was no concrete evidence and that it was likely just legend or folklore. And John says that it was dowsers that told him about this a long time ago when he first moved in. Yeah, so I'm kind of like, ley lines, okay, whatever, pagan burial ground, pics or it didn't happen
Right.
kind of thing. So that's what's purported about the land, that it's supposedly haunted because of that.
Okay.
Now, the house itself, there it is said that it was originally constructed in 1145 by St. Mary's Church to house the builders, the masons, and the slaves that would be used to build the church. And then the big thing that came about with this was that the waterways themselves that ran through this site were actually redirected around and underneath the ancient Ram Inn, so then that way they could build. And they think that perhaps the diversion of those waterways could have opened a portal of dark energy.
Because the water
And
remembers?
yeah, yeah. So whenever I first read this, it was on the Ghost Adventures website, and I
Mhm.
said, "Calm down, Zach."
Mhm.
And then I read it on 6 other websites too, and I was like, "Fuck."
But still, I
I
mean,
still
unless you're just like if you're going with the whole you're pissing off Mother Nature, then yeah, fine.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if you're just saying because it got redirected in some way, shape, or form, then like half of the cities in the US, not even half, majority of the cities in the US should
yeah,
be.
exactly, yeah,
Like,
so that is what's reported, that that's supposedly causing a portal. Once the house was completed and the church was completed, it became what's known as the priest's house before eventually being converted to an inn. So the original vicar, his name was Gurinus. Sure.
bless you.
I know. He lived there until the vicarage was built. So the
Okay.
vicarage, I guess, is like
That
the house that the vicars stay
the
in.
House of
Sure.
Vickers.
Mhm. So after that occurred in 1290, a man named Maurice de Bathe, or de Bathe, or de Bath, I don't know, Bathe.
Faith?
He Oh, possibly, yeah. So he bought the the inn and worked on putting more stuff on it and restoring the original structure. The first official deed for this property is dated to 1350. So there's still a large swath of time that there's no real records of what
It
happened
is dated
there.
1350, right?
Mhm.
The way you said it, it sounded
Yes.
like you were saying to 1350, like, I don't know, like 2000 something, and so it was like,
Oh,
"What?" No.
no, yeah. Yeah, 1350.
Okay.
The 1500s, there's quite a bit more information about that because most of the building construction was added on in 1550 to 1600.
Mhm.
And in 1500s, they figured out that it had links to wool merchants because of the presence of tenterhooks. And I had to look up what a tenterhook is.
Mhm.
It's a framework with hooks that is used for stretching and drying cloth. And this is where the phrase on tenterhooks came from, meaning stretched or worried. I was like, never used
Yeah, I was
that
like,
phrase
"Who's
ever.
saying that?" Maybe that's the is that a British thing? British my
Probably.
British friends, let us know
Yes, let us know. I know we have listeners in the UK. Let us know. Do you say that often?
on
So,
t
also, I
tenterhooks?
I hope I don't offend you with my British accent.
She did.
I probably did. Alright, so also, the oldest surviving board for the game Nine Men's Morris was carved into a stoned inglenook that was dated to 1540.
But
That at least gives us I don't know what Nine Men's Morris
yeah, I
is.
was like, "I need more information." It's a board game?
Yeah, it's a board game from way back when. Whitney's looking it up for us.
So it's like a weird board game. It's got like 4 corners. You've got 2 black pieces and 2 oh no, 3 black pieces and 3 white pieces. And there's a whole bunch of different dots, and I guess you're trying to get your dots into a certain spot. I don't know. It says it's an ancient strategy board game. Place your pieces on the board, form lines or rows of 3, and leave your opponent either with 2 pieces or 0 moves.
Hmm.
So,
So it's like a weird Wahoo chess
I
combination.
guess so. How do you
Yeah.
play the 9 men's? I don't want a video. All right, we'll go on with your stuff. And everyone, if you know
Okay.
what 9 men's Morris is, cool beans to you guys.
Yeah. So in 1694, it got renamed the Old Tan House, and this was given to Edward Wallington. No, it was held by Edward Wallington and Edward Burton. You're going to notice there's a lot of Edwards. And they gave the property over to Jonathan Nelms.
It's a
He
popular
had
name,
it.
honestly. Edward?
Oh,
I
yes,
mean,
Edward, yes.
where do you think Edward from Twilight got his name?
Oh, totes.
He was
Yeah.
born with it.
Or was it Maybelline?
Awesome.
Okay. So in 1724, it got renamed the Horse Pool House, and it was owned by Edward Gregory. And then in 1820 is whenever it finally got renamed the Ram Inn Pub. This was ran by William Stoner of Kingswood, and he bottled and sold his own mineral water
Yeah, he
from the
did.
stream that ran underneath
Of
it.
course he did. S
Of course he did. The
Stoner.
Stoner. The landlord at the time, his name was Joseph Fennell, and he was landlord in from 1820 through 1842. And then
Pretty decent
we
run there.
see it, yeah, we see it change hands pretty frequently after that. So 1842 8 through 1863 was him and Don. Oh my God, was Henry Dauncey.
Wow.
Hemon.
Him and Hibber.
From 1863 to 1867, it was James Goscombe. These names, man.
We made it out of the
1867,
Edwards, though, so
we did. 1867 to 1885 was Thomas Misen, and then whenever he passed away, his wife, Elizabeth, took over until 1902.
wow.
And then, yeah, and then 1902 until 1916 was William Frederick Vogt, and then 1916 to 1939 was Rufus Morley. 1939 without an official end date was Lewis Raymond Allen, and then we also had Les White and Bill Peake at some point in that time period.
Okay.
There's no official dates associated with those.
Okay.
In 1965, it officially closed as a pub, and 1968 is when John Humphreys buys the place and works to restore it and get it historically preserved. And he worked on this until his death until in 2017.
Mm.
He used it as a combination of a private residence and a bed and breakfast. So he would rent out the main rooms, and then he had himself a little like makeshift bed in the main living room area. As of right now, even though he's passed away, his daughter Caroline has run it as a private residence kind of, but mostly rents it out for ghost tours.
Hmm.
And then at some point during its history, there's no date reported for this, and I looked everywhere to find one and couldn't find one. Apparently, a fire ripped through Wotton-Under-Edge, and the rim was one of the only the ram was one of the only buildings to survive. So, yes. So that's the crazy history of it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hands going through it, and you know, we really only see the hauntings pop up around 1930.
Okay.
Which is interesting because there's a lot of history back there. It's weird for the hauntings to just pop up 1930. So, some of the things that are told about this area are, of course, it's built on a pagan burial ground.
Mhm.
They believe that some of the stones that were used to build the inn were originally part of a sacred stone circle, which angered the spirits that were associated with it.
Which stone circle?
They
Cite
don't
your
say, just
sources, sir.
I know. Yeah, it just says sacred stone circle. Burial of sacrificial children. John Humphreys, whenever he was doing some renovations, discovered a grave where child skeletons were inside and they had broken daggers inside of them. And one of the museums actually confirmed that they believed that it was a sacrificial
No.
ritual. Uh, Witchcraft and occult practices. They believe that there was a witch that was burned at the stake, and we'll talk more about her in a little bit.
Okay.
Of course, the past residents hang around. John Humphreys is known to hang around and make himself known. They also believe that it was a Covenanters' refuge, which was Scottish Presbyterians that were being persecuted in the 17th century.
Mhm.
They were said to have taken up shelter at the inn in order to avoid persecution.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, poltergeist activity, which poltergeist we've talked about where that could be a range of anything, but given John's age,
Mhm.
poltergeist seems kind of odd for him.
I'm still on the weird belief of, like, poltergeist is not a thing.
I'm on a belief of I believe that it's a psychokinetic manifestation that becomes its own entity over time.
Okay. I can see that.
Yeah. But it's not necessarily something that's been there forever, and
No.
it's not like an elemental or
Yeah, I
something.
feel like a lot of times it's just someone being an asshole and being like, "Ah," like, yeah, no, no, no,
Yeah.
you're an asshole.
Yeah, I would 100%, 90% of those cases are just people being assholes, but the true ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we also have some curses that were put on this place because, of
Curses.
course, curses. So, the first one is the pagan curse. They believe that a curse was put upon the land where this pagan burial ground was, that in the event that the ground was ever disturbed,
Mhm.
it would be cursed. Well, construction would have disturbed the pagan burial ground, and on top of that, he frickin' dug up some of it. So,
And when was this that he dug all this up?
I wanna say it was, like, early '70s?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's also the witch's curse that, they believe that whenever she was executed, that she placed a curse on the area in the vicinity, and, it just lingers within the inn, which causes supernatural phenomenon. The retribution for disturbing spirits, because anytime you disturb a graveyard or move a gravestone without, properly doing the body correctly, all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff, it's going to cause issues. A hex from displaced monks, because apparently we can't be in England and not be dealing with a monk.
Well, yeah. Duh.
Um, Monks that were mistreated or evicted from the site during periods of religious upheaval were said to have placed a hex on the location, which perpetuates the supernatural activity. And then the people, the Covenanters that were seeking refuge, they believe that some of them may have left a protective or vengeful energy behind because the ram was a place of sanctuary for them. It helped them. And so they're very protective of
Mhm.
the ram. Now, there's also possibility of hidden treasure located within the
Hidden
ram.
treasure? Let's
Yes,
go.
or somewhere in its vicinity. They this is all legend. There's no actual, you know,
Not until
fact
we
to any
get
of this,
there.
right? But they say that it could be valuable artifacts, riches, or even mystical items. So there's all kinds of stuff.
Okay. I feel like that was, like,
Let's
really
see.
vague. It was someone that was like, "You know what?
Exactly.
Let's just say that there is hidden treasure." And they were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
cool. What should we say is there?" An assortment of things that any particular group of people may be interested in. Hidden treasure,
Yes,
boom.
exactly. Yep. That's exactly what most people are like, yeah, I don't think that's real.
No.
Um, but they believe that because it has medieval roots and it has such a long history that it is entirely possible that something like that could be left
I mean,
behind.
if
Um,
you go with, like, my theory, your place has hidden treasure, and I should just come and take shit.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what you're gonna take, but okay.
I could find some things.
I'm sure.
Mhm.
Just don't take any of my rock collection.
Oh,
Um,
balls, that's what I was gonna
balls.
take.
Let's get into the ghosts themselves.
Mhm,
Because in true England fashion, there must be a monk involved.
of course.
Um, and on top of that, there are also nuns, apparently. So,
Ugh, ugh, ghost nuns. No, I don't like it. Why does that make it, like, 20 times creepier? No, 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 no.
yeah, I get you. I get you. So, these are said to haunt the bishop's room, and the bishop's room was actually originally called the Berkeley room, and we'll get into why the name changed. But people who have stayed there have said that they have seen two monks like standing in the corner and like huddled together talking to each other. And it typically happens in the middle of the night. They wake up and all of a sudden there's these monks in the corner and it's creepy. And I was like, yeah, would not do that.
Just, like, 10 out of 10, will not come again. Thank you.
Exactly. Most people say that they would not stay in that room or they would flee in the middle of the night and would actually try to leave through the windows because they would just
Oh my
fuck it.
god. That escalated so quickly. Like, what?
No.
You can't go
So that's actually
downstairs? Like, what?
no, there's actually a trend of people being like, "Fuck it," and just out the window
What? Wow.
because it happens in the witch's room as well.
Wow.
So, it's also said that bishops haunt the bishop's room, but I've seen 2 different takes on why it's called the bishop's room.
Mhm.
So the original story, or the one story that I heard was multiple times, was that the room's name was changed to the bishop's room after a bishop named Reverend John Yates came to try to exorcise the house and claimed that the inn was the most evil place that he had ever had the misfortune to visit. There's also rumor that the bishop's room is said to be a priest hole or house a priest hole, and I
You're a
giggled a little when I
priest
said
hole.
that. I knew you were gonna do that. This is a concealed spot or a room that is created for priests to hide in when the Catholics were being persecuted. So whenever Queen Elizabeth
Okay.
the First was doing her thing, priests were captured, tortured, and killed.
Now I feel bad
So
laughing at it.
no, I laughed. I was like, I don't give a shit. It's funny.
But also,
So
come up with a different name.
I know, yeah, don't call it the priest hole because, like,
Hide a priest.
uh, it's called the hap.
The hap! The happy hap.
All right, so also in the bishop's room, there is rumored to be a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel that is seen in the corner of the room.
Oh, Bobby.
Yes.
Oh, and I really like those dogs. It's one that I'm like, if I got another
Yes.
dog, I think I would that's one that I've been looking at.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's also said to be a greyhound that's around there
Oh,
somewhere.
dear puppies. I
Yeah.
say little
Now,
greyhounds are
greyhounds can get
meh.
big. So, uh, there's also rumor of an incubus or a succubus.
Mm.
John has claimed to have been raped multiple times by either an incubus or a succubus. One book that I read said that he always called it an incubus, and it was important to note that John was actually homosexual. They believe that incubi and succubi are either two separate demons and just based on whoever's preferences will feed on whatever, or that it's one demon that changes sex based on the preference of those that they are attacking. So it just depends on
And which one's
what you
which?
believe in.
Succubus is female, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So these are also seen in the bishop's room. You're going to find the bishop's room is by far the most haunted.
Well, it's
Um,
gotta hide a priest in there, of course.
I know. So they are supposedly the reason that the inn was closed as a bed and breakfast. And
The succubus and incubus were the reason.
yes,
Okay.
that basically they were attacking people in the middle of the night. John was just like, "Ah, just let it happen."
Oh,
I
okay, John.
I honestly I the so if I knew something was attacking me in the middle of the night for a sexual reason, I would not stay there.
Yeah.
Like that, but John stayed. So I'm not saying anything about John or his family or anything, but that's just a weird thing to me that he would be like, "It's whatevs." But
Hmm.
yeah, so they were basically saying that people were being attacked out aside from John, were being attacked and that they basically couldn't keep the inn open any longer. We also have so many fucking children spirits. There is a ghost of a young girl who they believe is handicapped that's seen in the window of the witch's room, and she is always waving at anybody who manages to see her, which I think is actually kind of cute. But
It's cute. It's
it's also horrifying.
concerning.
Um, yeah, they say that they found the remains of the children in the grave with the knives in their body. You can hear children crying throughout the entire inn. When they put stuffed animals all over the place, the crying eases up.
No, I don't like it. Mm-mm.
There is a young girl named Rosie that they believe is actually a disguised something darker.
Shocking.
I was like, children spirits, I won't fuck with, man.
Mm-mm.
Like, mm-mm. They believe that there was a former innkeeper's daughter hanged in the attic,
By
and
who? By what? Why?
I think I get into it a little bit later, but they found her hanged in the attic 500 years ago or something.
God damn.
Yeah. You can hear a baby crying in the men's kitchen, which is the site of the pagan burial ground, and there is also a young boy called Peter. That's all I got on Peter.
I just instantly thought of, like, Lois and, like, "PETA,
PETA.
PETA."
Now, the witch. This is said to be a 15th century woman who was sentenced to death because she was accused of witchcraft. She took refuge in the room that is now called the witch's room at the end, but was found and burned at the stake.
Mm,
She does not like being called a witch because it's very likely she was not actually a witch. She was just accused of it
fair.
because medieval. But she
Medieval.
haunts the witch medieval. She haunts the witch's room. They also believe that a black cat haunts the witch's room. They're not sure if this black cat was a witch's familiar and burned at the stake along with the witch, or if it was a mummified cat that John Humphreys found in the wall while he was renovating. This cat is actually on display. I'm not posting a picture of it because it gives me the heebs. They say that this cat, I've seen 2 reports. One says that it's 500 years old. Another one that came from an actual, like, museum says that it's 4,500 years
Good
old.
God.
So,
That's
yeah.
a change.
Yes. Back in the day, this was seen as a good luck charm, and it was found behind the chimney next to a worn out Bible. So it's likely that it was a ritualistic mummification
Mm.
of this cat to protect the house. He also found things like shoes and that kind of thing, clothes. Those are all seen as good luck charms. Poltergeist is another one. John claims to have been grabbed by the arm by a demonic force and dragged from the bed across the room the very first night he was staying there. And
Wow.
for some reason, he stayed.
Of course.
There is also a Roman centurion that will appear on horseback.
Okay.
He will unexpectedly ride through walls when nobody is expecting it. That is honestly, like, the energy I'm here for right
That's
now.
so chaotic. It's fantastic.
The past owners like to hang around in the sitting room. There's supposedly a shepherd and his dog that hang out in the bishop room. I believe that's the King Charles Spaniel. There was the rumor of the groom that is supposedly a man that died in a motorcycle accident on the roadside outside of the inn on his wedding day.
Which I will say is interesting because normally it's always a bride.
Uh-huh.
So, a
Yep.
groom.
A groom. There's also the murdered man.
Mm,
There are screams of a man that can be heard who was supposedly murdered by having his head stuck in the lit fireplace.
God, I do wanna say, though, the names that we're coming up with, like, the witch.
These these are my names. Okay, so the
Oh,
witch, okay, let me tell you.
okay, I was like, "Really? We've got the murdered man?"
Mm-mm.
Like, that's what
No,
he's
so
named?
the monk, the incubus slash succubus, the witch, and the centurion and the gray lady are the only ones that they have been named. I
Okay.
just named these because so that I could keep them straight.
Really, I'm making fun of you because it's
Yeah, you really are. Mhm.
so creative.
It really is. I didn't want to. I just yeah.
Okay.
So the next one is the woman and the baby. Shut up. It was found buried under the floor in the men's kitchen. And they believe that the Bristol Museum was one of the ones that came in and said that they believe it was possible ritualistic sacrifice due to the presence of an iron dagger.
What
Cannot talk.
people just, like, would go to this place and get sacrificed? Like, they just
This is the pagan burial ground part of it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if
Yeah.
it was, like, this woman and child were like, "Just going to the pub." I don't know why the kid is, but going to the pub, and they're like, "Stab, stab, stab," and now they, ritual.
Yeah. No.
That's how it happens,
Pagan.
by the way. Come to
100%.
my TED Talk about rituals.
There's also the gray lady. She was found buried behind the bar, and she presented herself to John's daughter Caroline as Elizabeth, and she said that she was murdered by a highwayman. And there it is known in that time period that the space between the roof and the that floor, so the attic, was being used as a hiding space by 2 highwaymen. So they believe that she was murdered by them.
Wow.
And then the shadow figure
Of course.
that is violent and aggressive. He's 7 foot tall. He's very violent toward men, but favors a certain type of female. They didn't say what
What?
type it is, just a certain type of female.
Like, busty? Like, what are we talking about? Like,
I don't
what
I don't know, like rotund? Like,
yeah, like, I don't
I don't know.
stern?
Stern.
Like, boss bitch?
Maybe. Goodness. Well, he seems to be protecting something in the barn. So, let's get into some stories that I found.
Mhm.
The first one is from H.G. Barstow. He went in 1975 while he and his wife were on a tour of the West Country. I
Oh.
don't know what that means, but he came across the inn while it was still being run as a bed and breakfast. So they went in and asked John, "Hey, can we have a bed?" And he was like, "Oh, we're actually booked up for the evening, but if you wouldn't mind having a bed in the stable for the night, the next get like we're having a guest leave the next day and you can take over their room for the
Are they
however
like
long you want."
Mary and Joseph? Like, what is
That's what
this?
I
Like,
thought too. Yeah. I thought that too. So they were like, "Sure, no big deal. We'll stay in the stable." And to be fair, the stable isn't a classic stable. It's just named the stable because that's what it was used for at one
oh,
point.
well, then even better. I don't have to listen to idiots in the room next to me. Like, fuck yeah. Put me in the
Yeah.
stable.
So they went to the pub after they put their stuff in the stable and they met another person who had stayed at the inn. And that person said that they were in the Berkeley room, which is now called the Bishop's room, and that he experienced the Cavalier walking through the wall. So,
Okay.
Cavalier soldier just walking through the wall. He said that it freaked him out enough that he immediately left the next day.
Hmm.
Went back to the inn. The couple goes back to the inn, and he's woken by his wife in a panic after they gone to bed. And she asks him, "Did you hear a high pitched whistle that went all the way around the room? It just kept going around and around the room." And she noticed that the car park lights were flickering. So all of the lighting outside was flickering.
Okay.
He, in true skeptic fashion, said, "You're imagining things, go back to sleep."
Yep.
So they went down and they told John about it, and John basically said, "I can't make breakfast because the power's out." And he pointed to a broken wire that was hanging down in the parking lot. And so they were like, "Oh, well, the lights were flashing last night." And John basically says, "Yeah, I don't mention the weird things that happens because, people will typically be like, 'Well, I'm not staying here.'" But he also wants to see what they organically experience. And so he said that he typically has a lot of people write in letters after the fact of the experiences that they had. He brings out all of these letters and they're going through them, and one that stands out to Barstow is one of a doctor, his wife, and his daughter, and they were staying in the Berkeley room or in the Bishop's room. The doctor woke up at 2 a.m. and his feet were freezing, and he was like, "Oh, my feet must have gotten uncovered." And he looks down and no, they are covered by like 3 layers of blanket. And he was like, "Ooh." And so his wife wakes up and she's like, "God, my feet are so cold." And he was like, "That's weird. Mine are too." And then they look up and a large green disc about the size of a dinner plate is hovering near the wash basin. And from the interior of this, a black orb basically starts to push outward, making the green even smaller until it's like a ribbon around this plate of black. The ribbon detaches from the plate and wiggles its way around the bedroom for a little while
Mhm.
before shrinking and disappearing. And then a monk appears in front of the fireplace and walks up and down before sitting down on the child's bed, on the daughter's bed. The girl immediately starts crying and says, "Daddy, daddy, I don't like that man sitting on my bed. He did it last night too."
Ah!
The monk immediately disappeared.
Ah!
So there was also another report of in one of the letters in a room called Uncle Tom's Cabin, which just gives me the heaves. Um, of what's known as the Blue Lady, who was possibly a maid. She could not abide untidy bedclothes, is how that was put. So basically, the people that wrote in said that they had been pulled off of the bed and the bed itself had been turned over.
Like the sheets?
Yeah,
Okay, I was like, bedclothes, like, are we talking pajamas or are we talking about
yeah,
clothing for the mattress?
Yeah. So
Okay.
they were moved to Uncle Tom's cabin the next night. Barstow and his wife and were moved over there. And Barstow at one point says that he's hot. He's like sweltering, and his wife is like, I'm actually really cold. And so he goes to bed and he pulls the sheets down to his waist and he falls asleep like that. The next morning, the sheets were pulled neatly up to his chin, and he claims that neither he nor his wife did that. Which I'm like,
You
you could easily just do that in your
Yeah, I
sleep.
was like, you can't say that you didn't do that in your sleep. I do a
There are
lot of,
plenty
like,
of
random
times.
shit in my sleep.
Yes. Yeah. So that one was one that I was like, meh. So
I've thrown a
he
pillow
says,
across the room.
I've accidentally kicked Sasha. So
Yeah.
meh. He says that they stayed a couple more days and heard a few more tales, but didn't specify exactly what they were. They decided that they wanted to come back for their silver wedding holiday and wanted to stay in the Berkeley room this time, so in the bishop's room.
Okay, so
And
they got a taste and they want more.
exactly. So there's separate beds in this room, one that he stays in, one that his wife is staying in, and he was just about to go to sleep when he sees a pair of infant forearms glowing in a golden color with its fingers wriggling about
What?
towards him in the dark.
What? What?
I know.
What? I can't.
I just
Oh, no.
infant forearms.
That's
Oh,
as
yes.
good as the as the one with the gloves, and he's, like, doing a pantomime for the lady.
Oh, so that's actually something really interesting.
Oh,
There are several parallels between this
and
and the
Black
Black
Monk
Monk
House?
House.
Okay.
Yes. He said that he immediately jumped into his wife's bed and slept there the rest of
Oh
the
my god.
time. So they went down to tell John what had happened, and John had another letter from a man who had stayed there during the year that they had been gone. And this guy said that he had seen a man with a hat, like an ancient nightcap with the little like thing and then the ball hanging down next to your face.
Okay. A Santa hat.
Yes, at the other end of the Berkeley room, and the man said, "I don't believe in ghosts," and walked towards it, but then the second that this thing stepped towards him, he was like, "Fuck it," jumped back into his bed, and pulled the covers over his head for the rest of the night.
Wow.
Another instance was 2 American couples had stayed in the Berkeley and in Uncle Tom's cabin for one night. The couple in Berkeley complained about John dragging furniture all night long above them so that they couldn't sleep.
Now,
The couple in
really do you honestly think when you go stay at a hotel that the owner is just like, "Fuck this. I understand they're paying me. I'm gonna move some furniture. I don't care that it's 3 AM, but I'm moving some fucking furniture." Really?
Yep,
You think that?
yep.
Really?
The couple that was in Uncle Tom's cabin heard nothing, and John was like, "Let me show you a thing." And he took them upstairs. All that's in the room above them is a mattress that he was sleeping on. There is no furniture in there, and there isn't even flooring in the area above the Berkeley room, so it was impossible for him to drag anything up there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Their last night, and he said, I'm going to end this on an enlightened note. He said their last night, they came back to change before they went down to dinner, and his wife was in the bathroom, and she came out and was so mad at Barstow for knocking on the walls. And he says that he didn't move, he did not do that. And all of a sudden, the door handle turns and the door starts to open, and a face appears in the door. It's John, and he says, Oh, I was knocking about. That was me.
Come on, man. Come on, John. I like how I literally was just defending the man of like, "No, there's no fucking way he would be moving furniture at night, like, he's not doing that shit." And then he's like, "It's me, Johnny." Like, come
It's
on.
Johnny.
Fuck.
So that's the end of H.G. Barstow and his experiences. The next one is Stuart Torvell. And I don't know if you remember me talking about him with Black Monk, but he was on a series called Most Haunted, and they were
Okay,
caught basically fabricating their shit.
okay.
Well, they went there in 2003. And his quote from this, he actually spoke to a guy that I read his book about ancient rain men. He said that it was like being in a war zone. That's how it felt mentally for me at the time. And John Teld, or used to John Teld. John used to tell every guest when they would come in that they needed to be respectful when they went in. Basically say, "Hello, my name is blah. I'm Is it okay if I communicate with you?" That kind of stuff. Well, Stuart walks in and says, "Hello, my name's Stuart. Go fuck yourself."
Well, go get
And then
fucked, Stuart.
was surprised whenever a little bit down the road, he saw a black figure and then was attacked, and he was hit in the chest and kicked multiple times. And he says that he still has nightmares about it.
I kind of was really hoping you would say, and then infant baby arms choked him.
That is I want that to be a Halloween decoration now. All right. Higgy Pop is a website that I I know.
Just okay.
So one of the guys that he did a hunt here. His name is Steve Higgins, and he's the one that I read the book from.
Okay.
He has a video of his ghost hunt out on Higgy Pop called My Ghost Hunting Story or something like that.
Okay.
And this was a list of the different things that you can experience at Ancient Rim: cold spots, temperature drops, icy blasts of air, light anomalies, door slamming, footsteps, furniture moving, knocking, pools of water, which we saw at Black Monk,
Hmm.
which I thought was an odd connection.
Yeah.
Unpleasant odors, touching, feeling uneasy, sickness, stabbing pains in your back and your chest, mists, shadow figures, and full apparitions.
Hmm.
It's lots of different things. From Haunted Britain, one visitor described the atmosphere of the inn whenever they walked in as awful, pure filth, dark, and heavy.
Wow.
Um,
That's not a good, like, Yelp review.
I know, right? The Mint's Kitchen, you can hear a baby crying. People have been thrown up the stairs by unseen forces. They have gotten a photograph of a white mist about the height of a human ascending the staircase. And I actually have this image that I'm going to put on the Instagram, and I'll send it to you, Whitney, so you can see it.
The Graham.
I mean, honestly, this reminds me of the Black Monk and the one that we were like, yeah, that could very easily be,
The one in the
you know,
stairwell or whatever?
yes.
Eh, maybe. Is that a thing of
Yeah, that's it's
Malibu up there? What are they drunk? What the fuck?
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, so
Alcohol
yeah, I'll put that
aside,
picture.
I mean, I guess it could be, like, a figure?
Yeah, it just reminds me of that black figure standing on the staircase at Black Monk.
Yeah, like, it could
So,
be. It could also be
it's
someone
just
vaped or something, I don't know, but
yeah, it's just a little too perfect. So, for context, this picture was taken in 1999.
okay. No, not vape.
So, but possibly, I mean, it's got a weird, like, for that to be smoke or
Mhm.
cigarette smoke, someone would have to literally be right under the camera and blowing it, like,
Right
real
up,
fast
yeah,
out to get that kind of yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna put it on Instagram. If you guys have any theories to what this could be, if it's legit or not, let me know. But it is one of the most famous pictures that they have, and it's been on in newspapers and all kinds of stuff.
Mm.
So, in the bishop's room, also known as Berkeley Room, there was a medium that was opening the door. They were lifted from the ground and flung across the hall. And you can also hear the screams of a man who was murdered by putting his head in the fireplace. In the attic, they hear something heavy being dragged, which keep in mind the attic is where that couple was like, "You are moving furniture." And John was like, "No, I can't do that." So they believe that that heavy dragging sound is actually the sound of that girl's body being dragged.
Ugh,
Yeah,
why did you have to do that?
because that's part of the thing.
Ugh, bleh,
Blech.
bleh.
Um, Little House of Horrors, the website also.
Little shop of horrors, bop, bop.
Oh
Okay.
my god. They had these claims of the bishop's room. Some people have claimed to be lifted by some unseen force and thrown across the room.
Mhm.
The bed has been known to straight up levitate. They have also, I know, yeah.
Alright.
They have also reported the man that was murdered by his head being put in the fire. Here is something truly
Go
horrific.
back to the man. So you keep
Uh-huh.
saying it kind of nonchalantly that, like, his head got put in the fire. What, like, he put his head in the fire?
He was
Someone
murdered.
put his head in
Someone
the
else
fire.
put it in there.
Someone
Mhm.
shoved his whole body head into the fire. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just
Yeah.
I guess I forgot from the beginning of this where you said that he was murdered, and then you just kept saying that he put his head in the fire, and I was like, "He did that? Because I don't that was a bad choice on his part. There's so many other ways to
Mhm.
do that, I feel like."
The infant baby arms really
It
just threw
really
you for a
did. I
loop.
mean, they just and, like, the imagery that you gave was just fantastic. Like, I could see it in my head, and I could still see little baby fingers coming at me, so
Fantastic. So, horrifically, someone has reported seeing a young woman that appears from the ceiling hanging upside down by her legs.
gross.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And then, of course, there is the Roman centurion that walks through the walls on his horse, and he freaked out 2 plumbers while they were trying to get some work
Oh,
done.
poor guys. Does he have, like, a sense of urgency? Is he just like, "Hello there," and then, like, moves on,
I
or,
think
like, what? Is he like,
I think he
"Yeah," and
just
like, "Whew," like,
no acknowledgement, like he's on patrol or something, just going through the walls.
okay.
So, they also reported sounds of something heavy being dragged in the attic, and the kitchen, they had an 18-year-old that was thrown against the wall during a ghost hunt during an un by an unseen force, and this also happened to John. And
Mm.
a young couple saw a woman come up from the kitchen floor, and it was right after this that they discovered the body of the young woman and the baby.
Ooh,
Yeah, like, they thought that it was her trying to tell them where she was to get her
yeah.
found.
So did they investigate that because of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it was the presence of the dagger and the age of the bones that they were like, "Ooh, I bet this is sacrifice."
Ooh,
So, we would be remiss to not talk about ghost adventures,
of course.
hunt.
Is
We're
this
gonna
why
get
you
into the different
messaged
hunts.
me the other day? I just got, like, a random message
Yes.
from Taylor, and she was like, "I just have to fucking say, Zach is fucking dramatic." I already know that we've said
Yes.
that, but I have to reiterate, he's fucking dramatic.
I feel like the universe just needs to hear it every once in a
Yeah.
while. Yes, I there was a Ghost Adventures episode on this in 2009. It was back when Nick was still part of the crew and back when Zach was still in his aggressive era. Keeping that in
Change?
mind, he's less aggressive now. This was just flat out being like, "Fuck all of the ghosts here," that was
Hmm.
yeah.
Good tactic,
So,
good tactic.
uh-huh. So, during the interview process of this, the audio freaked out. It got some weird static for about 5 seconds,
Mhm.
and, to the point that Aaron, like, was like, "Are y'all hearing that?" Like, yelled it out for them. They were like, "We have headphones too, brah." John appears to get attacked by something, or something tries to attach to him, and, of course, at the exact same time, in true Zack fashion, he gets a massive headache while he's standing next to John.
Mm,
Our favorite crazy ass witch, fucking Lady Snake, was a part of this.
mm.
She decided to do well, they called her in to do a ritual, and she basically said, "I'll open the circle for y'all, but I ain't doing the ritual." Like, this was something that she wouldn't even touch. And during the ritual, before they actually go through with the final act of it, which was them taking a dagger and saying something and then forcing it down, they caught a couple of growls,
Uh-huh.
from the altar. They caught some scratching noises. The temperature dropped visibly. You could see their breath while they were talking. And Aaron gets a very sudden pain in his eye. Now, I believe Aaron's sudden pains because Aaron doesn't really bullshit that kind of stuff. I believe those faster than I believe Zach's. And actually, when he pulls his hand away from it, you can see that the around his eyes gotten really red and dark.
Mm,
So the lockdown itself was pretty. I mean, they got the classic things: footsteps, movements, unexplained noises. They got knocking on the walls, a door slamming. They got growling outside of the bishop's room. And at one point, Aaron gets a shadow figure on the bottom floor that's coming out of the bishop room door.
mm.
Now, they do get a substantial amount of disembodied voices and EVPs. Disembodied voices, they get "I don't like you," "It's coming," "I hate you." They get some laughter, they get breathing, they get a female voice, they get somebody that says, "Don't tempt me," and then one that says, "I'm special," and Zach takes that to be a taunt, because of course he does.
Why
I know.
Okay. I'm like, why does that
Uh-huh.
have to be a taunt? Can it be,
I don't know.
like, a child or a woman, like, in their last maybe they chose to
But
be
I'm special.
sacrificed or something, and they wanted to say, like, "I
Oh,
am
maybe.
special."
Maybe.
We don't know
There's
pagan
another one.
rituals.
Yeah, we don't know. There's another one that said there was a name and then it said, "Where are you?" But
You
you
can't
can't
hear the
really hear
name?
what the name is. And then there's also a "Get out of here,"
Mm,
which, you know.
fair.
So at the end of it, Zach, they come back for like a little after thing,
Mhm.
and Zach says that he has a scary dream of a woman after the lockdown that is, calling to him, and then he ends up with 3 scratches when he wakes up.
'Cause you can't do that in your sleep.
Mm-mm. Nope. Now, Steve Higgins, this guy is a skeptic. And he had the opportunity to stay at the Ancient Ram, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna pass that up. Let me go." So, he does a series of experiments every hour, and he times it so then that way at 20 minutes past the hour, he will start the experiment. That gives him time to set up, and then 25 minutes for the experiment, and then tear down and, like, reflection time to see what he got, which I actually really enjoy. I think that's a very nicely structured way of doing things. But
Sure.
my man did a series of weird experiments. The first few are okay. So EVP sessions, he would leave out a trigger object. He had a little like toy robot that reacted to infrared movement and that kind of thing. If it moved, it would turn around if you like waved your hand in front of it. He also offered him up to the succubus in true crazy person fashion.
Okay.
And
That
to
escalated.
cap it all off, he held a DJ session.
I'm sorry, what? The
He held a DJ session
like,
for the ghosts.
"Are you guys there? Are my demons there?" Like,
He literally says in his book, because I this is the book I read. He says in his book at one point he was like, "All the ghosts in the house make some noise."
"All the ghosts in the house, let me hear you say, 'Ew, ew.'"
Yeah. So ultimately, he said that he felt like he could actually sleep or live in the ancient ram. He felt that there was nothing there that really gave off bad vibes. He was just like, it was really chill. He only got a few odd things.
'Kay.
He got a sound of a door moving in the men's kitchen, a thudding that was only picked up on the lapel mic that he was using. And it was in response to the question, "Can you give me a sign that you're here, please?"
Ooh.
The
Ooh, I
little,
don't
I
like
know,
that. 'Cause
I
that
know.
means they were like,
It's
"Hey,
here.
I'm fucking here,
Yeah.
bro." Like, "Ugh, don't touch
Yeah.
me."
The little robot that they used, he said that natural movements of about 10 centimeters of it like swaying back and forth or turning 10 centimeters, that's natural just
Mhm.
because you've got natural light fluctuations. The robot suddenly spun almost all the way around
Okay.
in response to something, and then it started to move back and forth about 20 centimeters.
Ooh.
Yeah, and he was like, "It's not supposed to do that." Um, A strange knocking or tapping sound was occurring in bouts of 6 to 7, while it was otherwise silent for a total of about 3 minutes. So it would do like 6 knocks and then it'd be quiet, and then you'd do 6 or 7 more knocks
Huh.
and then it'd be quiet.
That
And that
reminds me
happened
of
for a
the, like, running or pounding at the LaSalle.
Yeah,
It's just, like,
yeah.
a chunk of time, and then it's quiet, and then it would happen again. It's weird.
Yep. He used a sage stick as a trigger object in the men's kitchen because he was like, witchy stuff happened here, so maybe the sage. He got 5 strange knocks, all in different, like, it would be a single loud knock and then it'd be quiet and then another loud knock and then it'd be quiet again.
Hmm.
He did that happened 5 times.
Okay.
When he went to the barn, hit the IR light that he was using began flashing, and it hadn't done that through the entire investigation, and it did not do that after that either.
And
It
the
was just a very
the
strange.
barn is where that
The barn
couple
is in the house.
but is that where the
Yes.
couple the
Yeah.
stable, that's where they stayed? Okay. Where all
Yes.
the lights
Um,
flickered around outside. Yeah.
yes, yeah. And then he also said that there was dust that fell, so he woke up at one point because he decided that he was gonna sleep in the bishop's room. He started hearing this rustling and he looked over and there were these flowers that were kind of moving back and forth. And he was like, what the fuck? And he figured it was just something because they were right by the chimney. There was something going on.
Mhm.
And when he woke up the next morning, there was dust on the flowers. So he was like, something was in the chimney, knocked some soot free, and it fell on the flowers.
Sure.
So I was like, I mean, you can't prove there was nothing up there. So that's legit.
Yeah.
But that was an odd thing that occurred. Lance Railton is the next dude we're going to talk about. He's actually the last dude we're going to talk about.
Okay.
He is part of the Ghost Club, which is a British or English ghost hunting group. They're pretty large. They went out there in 2003, and the lead investigator, or there were a series of events that occurred that caused him to end up being the lead investigator in this. Typically, he's not the lead investigator. So one investigator fell ill before and called and was like, "Bra, can't make it." And then another investigator's car broke down and she was supposed to be driving somebody else out there. So there were 3 investigators that couldn't actually make it out to this.
Hmm.
So they did a series of vigils where from a certain time period to a certain time period, a group of people would be together and then they'd flip flop. And they did this in a couple different rooms.
Okay.
So I'm going to go room by room what they found. In the bar area, one investigator felt, and I'm guessing that these are psychics because the way that they talk about it, they seem like psychics. One investigator felt the presence of an evil man in a black cloak. And yeah, I know.
Okay.
The same investigator and another investigator felt a presence of cold on a single leg each. So they both felt it on just one leg.
Like they're standing
Which,
next to each other?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. In the witch's room, they saw a white, blue, and gray flame type shape that would move and flicker, and it seemed to react whenever they spoke to it, but it didn't show up in any photos that they took.
Hmm.
Um, EMF hotspots, they would see lights on the ceiling. They would see orbs next to the wardrobe, and they very much are like orbs are just dust. And so they tried to kick up dust to see if it looked the same, and they weren't able to recreate it.
Okay.
Some of the psychics picked up a child who was afraid of someone coming through the door, and they were doing a dowsing rod session. And when they asked if you don't want to, when they said in their line of questioning, if you don't want to speak to us, the dowsing rod crossed and all communication stopped.
Wow.
Yes. On the stairs, they got an EMF hotspot. In the attic, they had the sensation of cold hands. So their hands got cold. The psychic gained a clear impression of a dark haired woman in her teens or early 20s named Anna Marie or Anne Marie with her mouth open as if screaming while being strangled. And they also got a impression of a figure in a dark cloak. And this girl was also sensed by another psychic. It was a girl in her teens feeling trapped and panicky, eventually being strangled.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was like, "We didn't get much." And I'm like,
Did you not?
that
No.
that feels like much to me, but okay. But they seem to be very seasoned investigators, so that may not have been much for them.
Yeah.
The cool thing about it, Caroline Humphreys, John's daughter, actually has an active Instagram account where she posts pictures and stories from the inn right now.
Cool.
That it's called at the.ancient.ram.inn. And I'll put the link to that in our Instagram in the show notes. And the ancientraminn.co.uk has their events posted. They have overnight ghost hunts at the inn that are £49 each, and Sunday afternoon ghost hunts at the inn that are £20 each. So
We should
you
go.
can easily, yeah, we could make a whole like 2 weeks out of it and do Black Monk House and then do
Yeah.
this.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
really not a bad price. And then I was like, all right, you have to buy a plane ticket.
Yeah.
You have to find somewhere to stay.
We live in America.
We're poor. We're poor as
So,
fuck.
we're very poor. That's as a matter of fact, our dad was like, "So when are you guys gonna, stop being chickens and go ghost hunting next?" We were like, "Are you going to fund it, my friend?"
Yeah. I said, when we're
It's
done being
expensive.
poor, we'll go somewhere. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
It just happened that
So,
we got to go to a couple places.
yeah, and
Just-
that was just
Well,
2 of those events was free. One of those was paid for by
yeah.
Whitney's job.
So
So,
there you go.
yeah. So that is the rundown on the ancient Ram Inn, and it was
Alrighty.
very entertaining to go through.
It was.
So
I enjoyed it.
good.
It was entertaining. The baby hands, those are gonna stay with me.
Baby hands.
Baby
That's
hands.
fucking that fucking got me,
I'm gonna
man.
have one year for Halloween. One hand is gonna be a baby hand with, like, gold on it, and then the other hand, I'm gonna put a glove on, and then I'm gonna have, like, the 2 different, like, hands
I love
from
it.
Monk
Yes.
House and Ram. Yeah.
Yet you could do like the whole half of your body is like this one side's a monk and this side's a ram, and then like with your
I
hands.
don't know about that.
No,
I was
that's
thinking
too
like a
specific.
black lycra suit, and it's just the hands. Like, I'm not involved in it whatsoever. It's just the
I got
hands.
you.
Okay.
You're just manifesting.
Yes.
Okay, I got you.
Just hands. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, that does it for today's episode, and hopefully I'll get to do my special fun thing in the next month or so, assuming that my dog gets better.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yeah, well, we will spook you bitches later.
Spook you later, bitches.
Bye.
Goodbye.